What is going on, YouTube? Welcome to another episode of Doubleheader with Amir and Keenan Costain. On this episode, we ask the question: what does the NFL have in common with MLB and NASCAR? Find out in this episode with our guest Ryan Geraghty. Now, on to our featured presentation.
All right, y'all. Welcome back. Amir, good job on that. We have a special guest here today, Mr. Ryan Garrity. So how you doing today, Ryan?
Doing pretty well. Sitting here watching the Georgia NC State baseball game in the background. I'm excited to be on the show. Thank you all for having me.
Our pleasure.
Absolutely, no question. So today we're gonna talk about the NFL on Fox and MLB on Fox and NASCAR on Fox and how did they like it's pretty much like a crossover per se. So without further ado, we have Terry Bradshaw and Dale Earnhardt Sr. So Ryan, let me start this off asking you this. So when it comes to Terry Bradshaw and Dale Earnhardt Sr., what comes to mind?
So when I hear Earnhardt Sr., you probably think of the GOAT, probably the best NASCAR driver to ever walk the face of the earth. And I think of Terry Bradshaw. I think about somebody that could sling a pigskin a mile, and he's a funny guy. He's in some movies, had his own show. He's just an all around awesome football player and just great, great personality, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Think of the
absolutely.
Steelers. Think of Franco Harris. He was on some of those teams with Franco Harris. It's just a dang good football player. He was on a lot of good football teams.
Yeah, that that pretty much sums it up pretty well. So when it comes to the NFL on Fox and NASCAR on Fox, we have 2001 where you know NASCAR on Fox came onto the scene, and Terry Bradshaw was able to come down to Daytona Beach, Florida, to watch the NASCAR Cup weekend, Xfinity weekend, and Truck Series weekend. So so we all know what happens, with Dale Earnhardt Sr. And so here we go. We're just gonna jump right into it. So obviously, we all know what happened with Dale Earnhardt Sr. with the final lap in the 2001 Daytona 500. So coming to the final lap, uh, Earnhardt Sr. was running in the top three, trying to defend the DEI teammates of Dale Jr. and Michael Waltrip. And with DEI, they were the most competitive, most readiness team on the restrictor plate scene. So entering turn number four. So going back to the final lap, excuse me, going back to that final lap. So Earnhardt thought he had enough room to make it through, but there was slight contact with Sir Marlin in the 40 car, which made more slight contact into Earnhardt Sr.'s left rear, causing the car coming up the track to slide up into the number 36. So up into the wall it went, and Joy would make the call. Big trouble, big wreck behind him. So when you think about the final lap of the 201 500, Ryan and Amir, you can chime in as well.
Mhm.
What comes to mind? What are your thoughts going through your mind when you rewatch that moment?
So it's like, whenever you think of that Daytona 500, the first thing that comes to mind is this instance right here. Whenever I rewatched that, it's like it was essentially to that generation of NASCAR fans, it was like if we lost Tom Brady in his prime. Um, it's sad. There's a lot of controversy and um, conspiracy theories that go into the last lap of that race. Um, Everybody has a different story, but it's like that Daytona 500. That is all you can think of when somebody asks you about it. When the Daytona 500 comes around every once in a while, I forget what anniversary it was from uh, the incident, I think it might have been the 20-year anniversary. I was at the 2021 Daytona 500, and at the third lap, they kind of took a the pace car back out and did a memorial lap, and everybody in the stands put the number 3 up, and it was just one of those moments. It's like you kind of get chills from that because it really showed how much of an impact that this Daytona 500 had on the entire sport. I mean, you had old guys crying in the stands, and you don't see that until you're like, wow, this really did have such a big impact on this entire sport from then up until now. But it's crazy.
Yeah, for sure. And um,
And I like to chime in as well. I remember I was in the fourth grade when I first learned about Dale Sr. and his career. We're learning about people in North Carolina, and he had a big impact. And one of our historical figures he's brought there, let's say Michael Jordan, Howard Cosell, amongst other people we learned that year. And then it wasn't until a few years later when I watched this autopsy episode about Dale Earnhardt Jr., Sr., excuse me, that man mentioned here, Michael Waltrip, he never won a race going into that. And then he finally wins it and he's expecting to get, see Dale to, at the with the winner's circle. He's unaware what has happened on the final lap and his condition. And then it, like you said, it overshadowed that whole event and it overshadowed Michael Waltrip's first win, major win in the NASCAR. Not only that,
yeah,
Dale Jr. or excuse me, Senior, he had this was like one of the few races he never won a few years back until '98, and then 3 years later, here he is now helping someone else win a major race. And what better way to do it in Daytona 500? But unfortunately, of course, that was overshadowed what happened that last lap.
I think it's like
absolutely.
I think now Michael Waltrip even comes out and says that really messed him up, like after the fact as well. And I think I saw an interview of him talking about it, and he he really goes in depth about how like the feelings that he had when he was coming across the finish line. And like in here you say you had his quote. He's like, I just hope Dale's okay. I guess he's all right, isn't he?
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
he talks about that in an interview. I forget which one, but it is a great interview, and you really do feel bad for Waltrip because he did win that race. But the only thing he's going to think about when he thinks about winning that race is one of his best buddies going into the wall on that last lap.
And one more thing to chime in, also Dale Jr. I mean, he was, of course, what people forget, he was trying to, Senior was trying to make like create a path for both Waltrip and his son to get to the get to the victory. He's I also learned about how some of the strategies that goes into a race. And then also the last one I also remember was Dale Jr. going to the hospital hoping to be by his father's side, but then getting the news that his father didn't make it. And one of the saddest days in not only NASCAR history, but sports and U.S. history.
yeah, definitely. And going back to your earlier point, Ryan, to that quote that you just made, that was actually Darrell Waltrip making that call up there in the booth, with Mike Joy and
That's
Larry
what it was.
McReynolds at the time. Yeah.
My fault.
Um,
I messed up that
yeah,
name.
no, you're fine. Yeah. A lot of people were thinking the same thing, like, oh, is Dale Earnhardt gonna be okay? That wreck didn't look that bad, and Earnhardt has been to much bigger wrecks than what he sustained back in '01. And just going through this PowerPoint presentation here, we got Waltrip was able to celebrate with the team, take pictures, and he was just waiting for Earnhardt to make it to victory lane. And Ken Schrader was able to get medical help and check in. And then when Ken Schrader was able to see Michael Waltrip in victory lane, he was like, "Hey, buddy, it's not good." And then and the Halifax Medical Center was basically right across from the speedway. It was a short trip, and he was able to make it to the hospital, but with family and friends. But Earnhardt was pronounced dead at 49 with um, um, a bellow skull fracture, in the back of his head. So pretty, really, really touching, really, really sad to see that sort of thing happen. And everybody knows, when it comes to that. So moving forward with with NFL on Fox. Speaking of that, so during that time, NFL on Fox had that big deal coming up in 1994, and in 2000 and 2001 NFL season, the NFL Fox team consists of John Madden, Pat Summerall, Dick Staunton, Matt Millen, Cam Oliver, and Kenny Albert and Tim Green, just to name a few. So, Amir, I'll let you take this part a little bit. So, what do you remember from doing research or watching any of the games when it comes to that season on Fox?
Well, yep. So of course, by 2000, Fox, when NFL been on Fox for 7 seasons, and of course during the course of games, they will promote like the shows are on Fox, like The Simpsons, Beverly Hills 90210, That 70 Shows, The X Files, what have you, and also the other sports such as MLB, NHL, and also coming up for the 2001 season, NASCAR. So during the games, they'll say Pat or Dick Stockton will say like coming in February, the Daytona 500 is coming to Fox, and they'll help promote their brand. And so that would get people interested in seeing Daytona on Fox and NASCAR on Fox.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they still run a lot in that tail end of the NFL games. You always have one or two um, ads for the Daytona 500. They have the cars that come across your screen, and it's like tune in
Hmm.
on such and such for the Daytona 500.
Yeah, that's what makes it
Yeah,
even better. Like how they do that with the cars coming in on the bottom of the screen. It really gets your attention.
Right.
but going to the rest of the slide here. So we got, you know, Terry Bradshaw of the Pittsburgh Steelers was invited, as I said before, to Daytona Beach and was able to talk to Daryl Waltrip in a interview in the booth during a rain delay. And when I saw this video back of Daryl Waltrip and Terry Bradshaw talking to one another, Terry Bradshaw had this to say: "I'm a huge NASCAR fan, always have been. Last week I saw the 125, and I saw them out earlier. This is one of the no, this is one of the greatest races to start off a race in the season because of all the switching you do after 8 laps, and then you make a boo boo and eh, um right into the pack. So Bradshaw, you know, talking to Waltrip and explain his side of being a racing fan, and that's pretty neat to see from a guy that is on the field 18 days a week and you know and stuff like that. But anything else to say before we move on? Or
I've seen it a lot recently. You got a lot more NFL players getting into NASCAR. Like I think Alvin Kamara now is even a ambassador for NASCAR, and then of course Keenan was there. Lamar Jackson was at the Coca-Cola 600.
that's
So
right. Yeah,
I like the whole crossover that the NFL is doing with NASCAR right now. It's super cool to see those guys out at the track supporting their favorite drivers.
And
definitely.
not only that, it's a big event because the Daytona 500 is the start of the season, so it's going to attract like a lot of celebrities, similar like with the Super Bowl. That Daytona 500 is their Super Bowl, and they take place within a few weeks of each other. So you're going to get a lot of stars from not only the NFL but MLB, NBA celebrities, and lo and behold, Terry Bradshaw, former NFL player, works for NFL on Fox, big racing fan. Couldn't ask for anything better.
It's cool to see it too now where you have guys like Michael Jordan who own a race team. It's cool to see like who's going to be the next athlete that's going to go out and buy a team, you know. They're not buy a team, but
Yeah.
start up a team.
Mhm.
It'd be pretty cool. Like I know at the Daytona 500, the couple times I went, Luke Combs was there both times I was there. Trump was there one year. I think Trump was there one year. Yes, he
Yeah,
was.
and I believe it was 2020 that Donald Trump was there, and I think you and me, Ryan, we were both at the 2022 Daytona 500 with
The one that
the
got
new
delayed.
car.
Mm.
No, that was
That might have been
2021 that got
2020.
delayed.
Yeah, yeah,
2020 and I believe no, it was two, yeah, it was 2021 that got delayed because of the
yeah. And
rain.
they
Yeah,
didn't
that's
drop the green flag until like midnight.
right. But
Yeah.
anyway, back to 2001. So we're gonna talk about Terry Bradshaw's NFL career when it comes to this. So, but Terry Bradshaw was drafted in 1970 in the first round with the first pick by the Pittsburgh Steelers. His car- excuse me, his Bradshaw's career lasted from 1970 to 1983. All with Pittsburgh, and his achievements and career stats include 27,989 yards, 212 touchdowns, 210 interceptions, and a passing rating percentage of 51.9. And he also had 32 rushing touchdowns, four Lombardi trophies, and two Super Bowl MVPs. So, Ryan, I'll start off with you. You brought it up earlier about Terry Bradshaw, how he can throw that pitch can up in the air. So, what else can you talk about when it comes to Terry Bradshaw's career?
I do. A lot of people don't realize how good he was on his feet as well. As you have in here, he's got 32 rushing touchdowns. That's unbelievable for a quarterback. I think he was one. He was one of the first like really dual threat quarterbacks in my opinion. And he was a big guy too, which it was. He could run the ball and throw the ball, and he was pretty good in the pocket because of that. He could take a hit. He's probably one of the toughest quarterbacks that I've ever watched highlights from. My dad talks about him all the time, how tough he was. And my mom's brother was actually a huge Steelers fan when he was younger, so she uh she has a lot of stories. Terry Bradshaw seeing games with him on there because they were always watching Steelers games because her brother was a big Steelers fan. So yeah, he's definitely one of the best quarterbacks. I'd say he's probably in the top 20 on the quarterback list.
Yeah, definitely. Amir.
Yeah, and it started out pretty rough for Terry Bradshaw early on. If you look at his stats, I mean, like 6 touchdowns of 24 interceptions rookie season, and they were ready to run him out of town. But then time went on, he got better. I mean, went from like game manager to like MVP candidate by towards the end of the 70s, and then after his NFL career, he did the movies and did broadcasting. Started out with CBS before he went to Fox '94 and remains there to this day. And you mentioned earlier, also had like his own reality show. He's been on several commercials with both the Fox team and several others I can't think of at the moment. Either way, he's had a career that a lot of people could only dream of, and it's just still going at it.
Wasn't he in the end of Kicking and Screaming? That would remember when Mike Ditka was the soccer coach for Will Ferrell?
I th-
Um,
I think he was.
I think
Amir.
he ended up being their neighbor or something like that in the end.
I think I do
Okay.
remember that. Yeah, it's been a while since I've
Yeah,
seen
yeah,
Kicking
yeah,
and Screaming.
Yeah, it was
yeah,
I think and Ditka was mad because Terry Bradshaw was his neighbor.
yeah. It's been a while since I've seen that movie myself, and that came out I think 2005 because
Yeah,
Talladega,
yeah,
Talladega Nights came out in 2006. I know that. So,
yeah.
but
Funny we're bringing up Will Ferrell, and this summer will be 20 years for Anchorman, and of course, towards the end of that movie, we're getting a lot of topic. One of the anchors had to cover the Steelers, and well, that didn't quite go so well.
yeah, yeah.
Anchorman's
That's a
classic.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's a good connection, Amir. Definitely.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
But but yeah. Terry Bradshaw NFL career is actually extraordinarily really impressive, despite what he's done the past 13 years of his career, and his personality is really, really cool, and definitely knows his stuff there. So
Hmm.
anyway, but moving on to the NASCAR on Fox TV deal, on November 11th, 1999, NASCAR agreed with a brand new contract deal with Fox Sports, and the sport of NASCAR has risen in viewership throughout the 1990s, being the like of many other professional sports like the NFL, NBA, and NHL league. Excuse me. The contract consists of a 6-year, $400 million deal. That was like Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt had this to say with the new negotiations, and I quote: "The sport has taken gradual steps uh, up, and along the way, there have been many leaps and bounds, and this is one of those." Jeff Gordon had that to say. And with Earnhardt, he had this to say, quote, "This puts us in line with other major league sports. It should have happened a lot sooner." So when it comes to the new TV deal with Fox, and I'll let you go first, Amir, this time with Fox Sports. So when it comes to that, what are your thoughts with the new TV deal with NASCAR on Fox beating out the likes of some of the other sports leagues throughout the world?
Well, yeah, because I know people forget they're so used to today. They're seeing NASCAR on Fox and NFL on Fox. Back in the day, they both aired on CBS, and by the mid '90s, Fox had bought out, or CBS lost his rights to the NFL, and then Fox picked up the NFC package, and then a few years later, CBS lost his package to NASCAR, and then lo and behold, Fox comes in because they had the NFL, NHL, and MLB. Why not get NASCAR? And what better way to promote it is with two of its biggest stars, Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt Sr. So with that in
Right.
mind, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead. Yeah.
yeah. So and Dale Earnhardt said it best. I mean, it should have happened a lot sooner because again, I mean, the only other TV market that was airing NASCAR was ABC, and then maybe
And and also CBS as well with Ken Squire back in the day. So
yeah. So they didn't have like I think NBC had it too. So now that you've ruined Fox, now you're part of you've been now your games have been aired on the big four networks: ABC, CBS, Fox, and NBC. And what better, like I said before, what better way to kick off your coverage on Fox with their Super Bowl version of NASCAR, the Daytona 500?
right. No. Ryan?
Didn't the Speed Channel pick up some of the races that weren't aired on like the big TV networks?
No, I believe that was more the lower series, like the truck series, and
Hmm.
there's a practice and qualifying sessions that they would do, and Mike Joy and some of the other folks on the Fox network would take care of those.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad you
So
brought up Speed because they also people now that are used to seeing NASCAR events on that channel, and
yeah, so Ryan, when it comes to the 1990s, the viewership of NASCAR, was phenomenally huge at the time. So what are your thoughts when you see NASCAR competing against the NFL, NBA, and the NHL back in the 1990s?
Um, I think they all worked off of each other very well. And I think like you guys were saying, with Fox, uh it should have happened sooner. Um, but I think I didn't mind it because I like all sports. I love it all, and it's nice because you can watch all of them in one place.
hmm.
So you can finish up the NASCAR race, and then an MLB game is going to come on Fox later that night. You can just keep the TV on through all of them, and then I think it's after the Sunday games on the NFL now. It's always the Simpsons, like you guys were saying earlier. They run the Simpsons commercials, and then they go right into the Simpsons.
Hmm.
But I think a lot, like they were all fighting for airtime, and it just couldn't happen. But it's like when they kind of figured it out, it was awesome. Because it really was fun to watch all the sports in one place.
Definitely, and going back to the '90s in itself, like I mentioned earlier, that NASCAR was huge, because you had the Earnhardt versus Gordon rivalry. Um, you had this up and coming star and Jeff, you know, and then you had Dale Earnhardt Sr. Uh, I've won 30 plus races, multiple championships, and you know a lot of people respected that, and a lot of people thought about like, hey, who is this kid? And versus Dale Earnhardt Sr. So
Hmm.
Watching those old '90s races was so cool because you did have the young gun Jeff Gordon kind of nipping at Senior's heels, and Senior didn't like it. Senior didn't like it. He always called him like a kid, and
yeah,
but it was always
good
fun to
old
watch because it was a good
yeah,
race, and they were racing hard against each other all the time.
good old Wonder Boy. As
Yep.
as Earnhardt would say, and that kind of stuck. In Gordon's earlier parts of his career, and that made Gordon a fierce competitor. But going back to Earnhardt real quickly, we're going back to Terry Bradshaw here. So Terry Bradshaw and Dale Earnhardt Sr. on the night before the Daytona 500. So later that same evening, Bradshaw was able to ride in the Pontiac pace car around with Earnhardt Sr. at the Daytona International Speedway. Dale was able to teach Terry on how to get around Daytona at a high rate of speed, despite not being in a stock car. So after making a lap or two around the track, Earnhardt did a spin on pit road, gets out of the car, and this is hilarious. Gets on top of the car, acting like they won the race, and so the former Steelers quarterback reflects on the moment on the 2.5-mile track, and he goes on to say, "We were flying." He's there describing down turn one, and I'm like, "Oh my god!" They're like, they're excuse me. Then we're coming off turn three, and he says, "There's gonna be a big bump, and then we're right up against the wall, and then we come down the pit lane and burning out in the grass. He's celebrating like we won the Daytona 500, and I'm wetting my britches." And
Yeah.
so Amir, you've watched this clip many times throughout, your life and when it comes to Fox Sports. So, what is your favorite moment, and what do you remember watching it back throughout?
Yeah, because I never reading about this on Terry Bradshaw's Wikipedia page, and I was like, okay. And a few years later, I found the video, and it was like amazing seeing two legends like interact and all that. And then when they did the whole bit, got on top of the cars, they acted like they won the race. It was like that was the best part of the video. And then afterwards, Bradshaw tells Dale that he'll be in victory lane with him, and it was like, I bet when people saw it, like, man, that's gonna be awesome to see that. Like, they're gonna then reunite again a day later. Of course, it's also very eerie knowing what we know now, but it was just when you saw it, you just felt like, man, everything's right in the world. They're both the top of their game. And what better way? Again, NASCAR meets NFL, first race. What better way to do it? It's like it was everything that was advertised, and then you get this surprise, like you're saying, man, I can't wait for tomorrow.
So, Ryan, do you remember anything? Do you know? Did you even know about the segment that Earnhardt and Bradshaw did with the pace car?
I remember seeing like little clips about it, and they still play them sometimes. And I think since then, Bradshaw's gotten in a pace car on the track again, and he loves it every single time. It's just funny to see. But
Yeah,
I
for
don't.
sure.
I know I've seen like one or two clips from that.
Yeah, if you haven't already, folks, it's I'll put the link in the description box down below if you want to see the full clip of that interaction. If you like football, if you like NASCAR, then that's your video right there for sure. So
Definitely.
moving on to Dale Earnhardt's racing career real quick. So we're on the Earnhardt side of the story. So Earnhardt Sr. He started his racing career in 1975, only running only one race that season. And 5 years later, in 1980, he started his full-time Cup career in the NASCAR Cup Series, or formerly known as the Winston Cup Series, and the rest is history. So Earnhardt collected 76 career wins in the Cup level. His achievements include a 1992 Coke 600 winner, 1998 Daytona 500 winner, 10-time Talladega winner, and 7-time Cup champion. And he also won the 1995 Brickyard 400. So I'll let you go first on this, Ryan. So when you think of Earnhardt Sr., like you said in the very beginning, you being an Earnhardt fan, following his career, and so what are your takeaways from this?
I think he's the goat. He really is. I think it'd be him and Richard Petty are up there, neck and neck at number one. Um, but he always had super cool, the Man in Black car. Um, couldn't miss it. You still see like replicas of them around, and if you ever been to the RCR museum, it's like a Dale Earnhardt Sr. shrine in there. But his career, oh, unbelievable. I mean, 10-time Talladega winner. That's crazy. He won it like same track 10 times. It's insane. 7-time champion. It's crazy too. That's an insane stat line. And that picture down in the bottom left, I always loved that yellow and blue fire suit and that yellow and blue car. I think Dale Jr. actually has that car now, doesn't he? The
I believe so. Yeah, yeah. He has it in somewhere in his shop, or even at his junk garage that he uses. So.
yeah, but yeah, the bottom line is Earnhardt's the goat. I mean, it's really all I have to say about his career. It's hard to sum it up when you got a huge, huge background like that.
Yeah, and I'll ask you this, Ryan. Did you know Earnhardt before the Intimidator look?
I knew of him, but I really didn't start like intensely watching him until the Intimidator look, because I that car was always sweet. I used to collect like old Dale Senior hats and stuff like that, just because that scheme was awesome. He'd throw a little gold in that car sometimes, and it'd look awesome. There was the Winston Cup. The Winston Cup hats had Winston Cup and Winston Cup champion in like gold lettering with the red Winston logo, and I just thought that was always pretty sweet color scheme on a hat. I had like two of them when I was in college and high school.
Yeah, definitely. Amir?
Yeah, and you brought on when you think of NASCAR, he's one of the first people that comes to mind. 'Cause I don't watch a lot of it, but like I know Dale, when I first learned about got into sports back in 2008, he was like one of the first people I learned about. Plus, given he's from North Carolina as well, so I also think of North Carolina icons. He's right up there with like say like some Andy Griffith, Michael Jordan, just to name a few. And then when you get to the picture on the left, most people are, when you think of him as one on the right, but then they forget, he started out with the yellow car, and then as he got more successful, that's when the iconic Intimidator nickname came to be, and then number three, which when you think of number three in sports, he's the first that comes to mind because of that black black car, the red outline, and the bold number three, and then I'm getting to his accomplishments. I mean, he accomplished a lot, and then towards the end of his career, people were asking like, he won a lot, but he says wouldn't be complete without the Daytona 500. And he finally, when he did it in '98, you can just see the elation in his face because it's like Daytona is again their version of the Super Bowl. And your resume is not complete without winning that race, and he finally accomplished that.
Yeah, and watching back the 98 500, the highlights of that, to see the joy on his face, and he would barely do burnouts, in the grass or on the track. He would I it was different for him and for every guy to come out, to give him high fives, handshakes, like, no, like, you just don't see that much anymore, unless if you're Dare Jr. or even a Jeff Gordon or heck, even a Tony Stewart recently.
Hmm.
So when it comes to Earnhardt and Fox, we're gonna get to NASCAR's first race on Fox. So it was time has finally come for the first race for the NASCAR Winston Cup Series. So Earnhardt was starting the seventh position along with Dale Earnhardt Jr. and DEI, which being the drivers to beat, which I mentioned earlier when it comes to equipment, experience, and speed when it comes to Talladega and Daytona. So Earnhardt was asked by a pit reporter about the possibility of winning the second Daytona 500 after having a strong speed week that in '01. And he goes on to say, and I quote, "We got a good shot at it. We got a good shot at it. Got a good car, and I wasn't really excited about the car we had yesterday afternoon in the last practice, but the car will come around. I think it's going to be okay. We got a good engine in it. A little win today, a little exciting. I think it's going to be an exciting racing, and it's gonna and wait, excuse me. I think it's going to be exciting racing, and we're gonna see something you've probably never seen on Fox. So, whoa, let's pump the brakes there a little bit. So we
Hmm.
already know what happened that fateful day. So, Amir, I'll let you go first this time. So when it comes to the pre-race interview, what by that pit reporter, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, and that's another thing that comes to mind that that the last sentence, it's just of course, being the first race, it's going to be everyone's going to see it. But then when he says probably you're going to see something you probably never seen on Fox, it's like you say when they saw it in real time, it's like, oh heck yeah. But then it's like years later when they rewatch it, it's very eerie knowing what would happen to the person who said that quote.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan?
I agree with Amir. I mean, that that last part of the sentence, you're gonna see something. You're gonna see something you've probably had never seen on Fox, and it's like you sit back there and you're like as bad as it sounds, it's like yeah, we really did see something on Fox that we never thought we'd see or and hope we never have to see again. Um, like I hope, like I know we've seen in recent years, we've seen a lot of pretty gruesome wrecks on some of these racetracks, but like nothing like that. Even that wreck wasn't like the Earnhardt wreck wasn't even a real bad wreck. Like not as bad as some of the ones we've seen now. But I think the impact that he hit on the wall was just so hard that that's what did it. And it like but that last part of the sentence really like sits funny with you after the fact when you hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to NASCAR. If it wasn't for that, we would not have the safety barriers and the safety of the cars,
Hmm.
that saved a bunch of people's lives, in those wrecks that we've seen in the last 10 to 20 years. We've seen flips and we've seen hard impact with other drivers, wall hits and stuff like that, and have them to escape, with minor injury is unbelievable per se. But going back to NASCAR's first race here. So Mike Joy, Larry McReynolds, and Darren Waltrip were on the call, making their debut on Fox. So quick background on all three of them. So They have all worked in NASCARs, and they all they have all excuse me they have all worked on NASCARs on their resume and working as a commentator. That being Mike Joy, and reporter since 1997. The Reynolds being a crew chief, notably with Dare Earnhardt Sr. In the late 90s, and also with the win in '98 in Daytona. Darrell Waltrip being a race car driver from 1972 to 2000, collecting um, a total of 84 Cup wins and a Daytona 500 victory in 1989. So with Terry Bradshaw, well, speaking of Terry Bradshaw, here we go again. Terry Bradshaw waved the green flag for the 43rd annual Daytona 500. So just a quick recap on here. So it was pack racing at its finest with close racing and at close weights, and with under 30 laps to go, you know, which wasn't in the beginning of this presentation. So coming quickly from a commercial break, a big wreck happened down the backstretch, collecting more than 10 cars involved, including a barrel-rolling Tony Stewart in the 20 Home Depot Pontiac. So, I mean, we all know what happened with Earnhardt, fatal crash, and we saw something that we haven't seen in quite a while. And so, when it comes to the wreck itself, Ryan, do you remember the flip down the back straightaway, involving Tony Stewart and a host of others?
Yes, I remember that. He ended up finishing the race on his roof, didn't he? Did nah, that was
Uh, that was a different one. Yeah.
yeah, that was a
So
different one.
so
That was a different.
Am- Amir, do you remember um anything from that incident? We know with that big crash down the back stretch.
And yeah, because I watched the documentary that Speed did on Dale Senior, and that again that wrecks off unfortunately overshadowed too. It's just and that's the thing about this Daytona 500, like it had so many interesting it just had so many subplots and storylines that are unfortunately overshadowed once again what happened in the final lap. Like yeah, we mentioned Dale Senior's interaction with Terry Bradshaw and Bradshaw's appearance here because he did the wave the green flag. Then you had Tony Stewart's crash that unfortunately miraculously survived and was able to finish the race. And then getting back to the people working the game, that was the first ever assignment for Fox. And similar way when the NFL bought the rights to the NFC package in 1993, they wanted to get the big names of the NFL. So like at the time they had Pat Summerall and John Madden. So they said, hey, in this case, Mike Joy, Larry Reynolds, and Darrell Waltrip are like the big names in NASCAR, basically equivalent to them, the big names of their respective sports. It's like, hey, we want to be taken seriously. We got to get the big names, not only in the sport, but also in the broadcasting booth. Hmm.
Yeah, that's perfect. I would definitely agree on that front when it comes to the commentators itself. How Fox
Excuse me.
you know came out with the law of momentum and 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 with this race itself in '01, and I did this research earlier today. It had a grand total of 17.081 million viewers that day, which is quite a lot for quite a big deal when it came to Fox's first race.
Hmm. Definitely.
I was actually doing a little bit of research on this today. I just got some notes here. So when it comes to the Daytona 500 viewership, um, real quick, this is a little off topic, but when it comes to the highest viewership, we have the 2006 Daytona 500 at 19.35 million views uh, and that is when NBC took over for a little bit. So that's quite the viewership in itself. So anyway, that is the end of my screen, and that is the end of my presentation. And coming up next, we have a familiar story. Not a familiar story, but we have another crossover between another sport and with Fox Sports. But stay tuned for that on Doubleheader. You're listening to Double Header. Be sure to like and subscribe.
All right, we're back. So we first NASCAR was NFL interacted in 2001, and now 14 years later, MLB's got an interaction with NFL. So by the title of our slide, you might recognize his name, Keenan and Ryan, Alex Rodriguez.
Yep, I recognize him.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So y'all have anything to say about Mr. Rodriguez? Start with our guest, Ryan.
Yep, being a Red Sox fan, I'm not a huge A-Rod guy, but he's a good ball player, that's for sure. As much as it pains me to say.
Yeah. Definitely somewhat agree with you there. I don't really follow baseball that often. I am technically a Braves fan, but I don't follow it religiously like you do, Ryan. But I definitely agree that Alex Rodriguez is a phenomenal baseball player, and I can't wait to see what the crossover is like.
So of course you can see here, Alex Rodriguez played 22 seasons in major leagues, shortstop and third baseman for the Mariners, Rangers, and most importantly, the New York Yankees. And of course, 14-time All-Star, 3 AL MVPs, 4-time winner Hank Aaron Award, and the best of all, World Series champion. Was part of the Yankees 2019 that took home the trophy. And of course, see here we're talking with the Mariners and the Rangers. So that's everything we do know. But did you guys know he also has delved into television?
Not much at all.
Hmm. How about you, Ryan?
I think he still is pretty. He's on one of the MLB on Fox panels now. I think still.
Well, he's been with MLB since he's retired. He's also commented for ESPN and also Fox Sports, and also made an appearance on Shark Tank. So he's working alongside the likes of Mark Cuban and what's the other and like
What's his name?
Lori Green and
Yep.
yeah and if,
I think it's a lady that does it, but I can't remember her name
What's
either.
what's Mr. Wonderful's name? They call him Mr. Wonderful.
Nick I can't remember I know his face, but I can't remember his name for some odd reason.
Same here.
Yeah, but of course,
Who's Mr.
people.
Wonderful?
Beg pardon?
Who? Kevin O'Leary.
Kevin O'Leary. So
That's
yeah, he's on the same panel with Kevin O'Leary and Mark Cuban, just to name a few. So of course, the show. He tries people have a business idea, try to pitch it, and either the Sharks are in or out. And what do you know it? Alex Rodriguez, who also owns a business himself, he's had a chance to throw his hat in the ring or say no thanks. But of course, that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about this right here. His time with Fox Sports and with the NFL. So, you know the Fox NFL Sunday, right?
Right, definitely.
Of course, we have our familiar face, Mr. Bradshaw, who we mentioned earlier. Then there's Michael Strahan, Howie Long, Kurt Menefee, Jimmy Johnson. Not that Jimmy Johnson, NASCAR fans. The NFL Jimmy Johnson. We did NASCAR slide, and also this man right here, Jay Glazer. So he's keep that in mind as the PowerPoint progresses. So of course, Fox NFL Sunday airs 12 to 1. The pregame show, they preview the games, make their picks, have funny skits here with Cooper Manning, brother Peyton Eli Manning, and of course they also bring in special guests such as Lady Gaga here in 2016. And also, you got Jay Glazer himself with his inside scoop saying who's going to be playing this Sunday, what's their injury status and whatnot, and what's going on in the NFL. And of course, also interview players, tell them what's going on with them, how their season's going, and so forth. So with that being said, now we move on to MLB. And on Fox, and what comes to mind when you think of MLB on Fox? We'll start with you, Ryan.
I always think of David Ortiz and A-Rod always going back and forth when they're on that panel. Um, and it's always fun to watch when those two are on there because you probably seen the one when I want to say it was when the Red Sox beat the Yankees one time, and I think it's David Ortiz going, "The Yankees lose." You remember that one?
Not familiar with that one. 'Cause, again, I don't follow MLB that much, but he's definitely making the jab at the Yankees, being that he was a Red Sox and that historical rivalry. So I do get the reference that he's trying to do there. Keenan.
When it comes to the MLB, right, Amir?
Yes.
Uh, I am familiar with the MLB. You know, a rivalry with Boston Red Sox and the Yankees with David Ortiz and Derek Jeter. You know, don't forget about Mr. Derek Jeter with the Yankees. You know, it did a lot for the sport, and what MLB has done with the Fox presentation has been nothing but extraordinary and life changing for many viewers.
Yep. And also, again, MLB joined the Fox, or Fox purchased the rights to MLB at the same time they did the NFL, because once upon a time, both were airing their games on CBS, but then when CBS decided not to renew their contract with both leagues, Fox swooped in, and MLB would air in the spring, going into the early fall, and then right around that time, the NFL season would go underway, and that's when they would promote like the World Series, the playoffs, or even do like updates during the games. Sometimes you'll see it on their Fox boxes, the scores of MLB games, or when they do like updates from the studio, they'll say, okay, this team has clinched the division or is one step closer to elimination, and so forth. But and as I say that, here we are, Fox with the it's home to MLB, and of course, I'm familiar with these two guys, Mr. Buck and
Oh
Mr.
yeah,
Burkhardt.
definitely.
Of course, they share, since MLB and NFL air on Fox, they're going to share the same announcers. So, of course, during that time, Joe Buck or Kevin Burkhardt will take time away from NFL assignments, and on who's doing. They'll take time away from NFL assignments throughout majority of October to cover MLB. Of course, and we'll have like a substitute like a Tom Brenneman or a Dick Stockton with Troy Aikman and Greg Olson, and of course now this season Tom Brady, and then of course you brought up Ortiz and Jeter. Well, they've of course appear on their pregame, postgame shows, and have also made appearances on Fox promoting their brand because again their NFL games will air in the afternoon, 1 o'clock, and then the 4 o'clock window, and then after that we get that's when the MLB comes on at night. So get a lot of sports to look forward to in October. But
Great
then
time
there's
of
just
year.
what's up?
It's a great time of year.
It is. Yeah. So of course, speaking of Yankees and making appearances on on Fox NFL Sunday, take you to October 2015, A-Rod's appearance. So what do you think they're going to discuss in his appearance, Ryan and Keenan?
I think I honestly think they talk a lot about football. Because I think A-Rod has a background in football. I want to say he played in high school, I think.
Hmm.
Um, and he's actually very good football mind. I've watched him on NFL Sunday a couple times when he's been on there, and he's actually pretty good football IQ and stuff like that. But I usually if it's October, they're probably honestly going to be pushing um, the MLB postseason as well. But he also gets into talking some football.
Hmm. Keenan?
Definitely agree with Ryan. You know, definitely is going to be there to talk about what he knows about football, what he realizes about football, and bring his knowledge. So um, maybe he'll bring a few references when it comes to baseball, but hey, looking forward to see what happens next.
Well, here it is. So, of course, um, now it's 2015. Rodriguez's MLB career is starting to come to an end. And sure enough, he's going to be an analyst like most players do. And what better way, he's analyst for Fox, and what better way to promote it is an appearance with these guys, Fox NFL Sunday crew. So, of course, October 18th, 2015, welcoming this guy, Alex Rodriguez. A few weeks earlier, the Yankee season came to an end, and he's going to promote his new role as MLB on Fox. And as you mentioned earlier, Ryan, he mentioned that he was a quarterback in high school. Chris Columbus High in Miami, Florida, 20 years ago. So, of course, they're going to ask him, hey, throw a pass, right?
Hmm.
He was
So
a
that,
pretty good quarterback too.
yeah.
Sure.
And so, of course, moment of truth, might recognize this man right here, Jay Glazer. Gonna catch a pass from Alex Rodriguez. So, what do you think of that, guys? And what do you think happened? Or,
Big.
Definitely a misconnection for sure.
I don't know. Was it more Arod's fault or was it Glazer's fault? It looks like it hit him in the hands.
well, what happened was, so they asked, Alex Rodriguez to show up his arm strength and throw a pass to Jay Glazer, who's standing next to the monitor at the Seals in LA. And Arrowhead had, I gotta admit, good zip on the ball, but Jake Glazer, unfortunately, tried hanging around the NFL athletes. Won't be confused with, say, Jerry Rice or Andre Johnson, because he couldn't connect with the pass, and that's where this unfortunate incident happened right here.
Oh, geez.
He
Yeah, and
shattered
then
the monitor.
yeah, and this was his first day on Fox, and well, it made quite the impression, and yeah, that didn't. I never seen this all the time throughout the years I follow. Like, oh man, especially Jake Glazer's like people like his intent to like say, "Hey, I'm open," and he tries to reach up and catch it, and I'm like, this is not gonna end well. But the Fox crew had a good laugh about it, and so did people on Twitter. So yeah, of course, the monitor he was sitting next to it and got damaged, and I will definitely prevent so add there'll be a video in the description box. You're gonna see its entirety. It's on YouTube as well. Okay, why isn't this thing's running a little slow? So of course, yeah, and then see, yeah, you see they're all laughing here. So it's like no hard feelings. It's like, hey, show us your arm strength. Show's coming to a close, so it's not like and got we can repair like it's not we make millions of dollars here. We can repair by next week. Even it plays in it. There we go. So here, way to make it is.
Overthrows, breaks the monitor. Hey, it was the loss of the in the sun. My pointing fingers at my QB. Definitely some funny interactions for sure from Mr. Glazer for sure.
I love Jay
Like Mr.
Glazer.
Yeah, definitely a personality like Mr. Bradshaw for sure.
Oh yeah, and yeah, Jake Laser. I mean, he's besides of getting like inside scoop about the NFL players, he's done several promotions. He's got his own like charity with helping military veterans and stuff. And but of course, on this day, well, of course, we can see why. I don't recall seeing any Jay Glazer highlight reels, like saying catching passes or scoring any touchdowns and whatnot. Of course, when later that day he tells him like I lost in the sun, like yeah, I know you're joking, Jay. And then I gotta say, Fox, Twitter, now X. Yeah, we're living back in the day when Twitter was a thing, not X. People. Yeah, that this sums it up right here. This is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah, and that could be in many different ways for sure, or transcribed is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. But of course, a few months later, Alex Rodriguez, gets now becomes a full-time MLB analyst with Fox and then later with ESPN. And well, a year later, he's invited back. So, got any predictions for how his second appearance on Fox NFL Sunday is going to play out, guys?
I say he doesn't break a TV monitor.
Yeah, they're
that's good,
definitely
guys.
gonna they're definitely going to bring that up for sure. Like, oh, remember when it happened the first time? It's like, oh no, no. They're gonna say, oh no, no. So they're just gonna laugh it off. And it's like, oh, flashback time. So
Well, you guys on the right track, or you're right. Uh, he's bringing back. He's gonna throw another pass, and what do you know? It guess the luck recipient is Mr. Jay Glazer. But this time he's in a dunk tank.
oh jeez.
Yeah, again, the pictures don't do it justice, but I will provide the video in the link description if you guys want to see its entirety. So, and I can explain it too. So had him throw 4 passes to see if they can dunk Jay Glazer, and he's standing like near and like, of course, to see if you can dunk him. And fortunately, none of the passes connected, and even Jay Glazer's like taunting him, saying like, "Hey, I can throw better than that." So let me you see there after the 4 passes don't connect. Versa Thompson comes by and pushes the button and dunks Jay Glazer. And once again, the Fox crew got another laugh. And as it says here, no equipment was destroyed. So, yep. Unfortunately, Jay Glazer went home. What had unfortunately came out of there wet and soaked. And and of course, that's why TV monitors, yeah, tells. Yeah, think of that quote from NFL on Fox Twitter. But yeah,
yeah.
TV monitors are expensive, so we got don't take instead. Yeah,
Hey, that's not a bad replacement for sure. I would rather have a dunk tank, excuse me, instead of a broken TV monitor, or at least a green screen monitor as well.
yeah. Anything else? They probably could have done this outside, where nothing can get damaged. But they figure, what the heck? And he played quarterback in high school, granted 20 years ago. So it's like, why the heck not?
There's sometimes you just don't you have that muscle memory on how to throw a football or how to do a certain thing, and maybe with Rodriguez there, having learned his lesson or learning from experience, he definitely exceeded expectations.
Yeah. Well, what do you think of all this sequence, Ryan?
I think it's funny. I like how Jay Glazer kind of pokes fun at him a little bit. Um, that's just like a funny group of dudes on that Fox NFL Sunday panel. I mean, you got Michael Strahan, who's hysterical. Jay
Hmm.
Glazer's hysterical, and all of those guys are just funny dudes. And hey, at least he didn't mess up a TV monitor the second time around.
Right. And that's what makes these pregame shows, like, gets your attention. It doesn't have to be all about like the games, but just make make it fun and informative. Like, have a mixture of the two, and also especially when we bring a guest along, like someone from a different sport, who works for the same network, being Alex Rodriguez. Get him, make he's trying to getting back to 2015 when he was just starting his new role on Fox. Had a background with football. He figured, what the heck? Why not we why not we show that off? And well, that's hilarious. It didn't quite work out. It's like, okay, we'll bring back on the next time, and hey, let's have him throw passes, make sure nothing gets broken this time. And sure enough, we got this one. Jay Glazer getting done, not by Rodriguez, but by Clarissa Thompson, who by that point was also becoming well known with Fox NFL Sunday. Yeah. And quick note, going back to the his appearance in October of 2015. So Did you know that that was the same day the Panthers beat the Seahawks, Ryan?
I didn't know that. I didn't know that was the same day the Panthers beat the Seahawks.
Yeah, because I was doing research for that, so October 18th, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that day. It was the day the Panthers finally beat the Seahawks, and then later that night when the Colts had that infamous fake punt formation against the Patriots. So
Yep.
very um memorable day in sports, and also that day the of course the World Series that year went into November. So like, it was the Yankees and I think the Rangers that year. I know it was the Yankees. I know Joe Buck did a game in East Weatherford and then did a game across the border in New York. Of course, like we mentioned earlier with NASCAR, they're going to promote the games and have of course, the broadcasters for each sport are going to be taking time off. But in this case, Joe was able to do that Yankees game, and then do the Giants game, and then the Yankees game later same day during that stretch. So it was very interesting to see that.
Was that the Deflategate day?
I know that was around the same time because that was when the Flake game. Tom Brady was supposed to be on suspension, but then that got held up to that didn't come to be till the next season, and then ironically
Yeah,
enough for the Colts, Luck was the one who missed time and was coming back for that game.
I think that was a month later actually in November.
Yes, it
Uh,
was. You're right. It was the second time around when the Patriots played the Colts. I think it was when they played the Colts. The Colts were home.
yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
so it was in November of 2015, I think.
Well, the Colts pitch game was later that night,
Oh, okay.
and then getting back to the MLB again, that World Series, I remember I ran into like one of the few times where it ran into November because then you know again Joe would do his games with Aikman. That day he did the game in Pittsburgh, and then Brenneman did the assignment in Pittsburgh with Aikman, and then Sam Rosen did the game in Seattle, filling in for Kevin Burkhardt because they were both covering the Burkhardt and Buck were covering the playoffs that day or during that time. Then the next week, Buck was calling the game in New York between the Giants and the Cowboys, or excuse me, East Weatherford. And since there was East Weatherford right across the border from New York, it and the Yankees are still in not the Yankees, the Mets. 'Cause, again, the Yankees got eliminated. So he was able to do that game and do the Mets game the following day. So it's just then getting back to this, it's just got to learn a lot about Alex Rodriguez as well. 'Cause, he grew up a Dan Marino fan, wore number 13 in honor of him, and then got to live out a little bit of his football dream on Fox NFL Sunday in the process. So
Yeah, and which ironically we did an episode with the QB draft class with Dan Marino. So funny how that worked
yeah,
out.
yep. And of course, and it's just it's fun to see how we get different team players from different sports to appear on like Fox NFL Sunday or Cross Branch. They're we know them from one sport. That doesn't mean they played or interested in other sports like we saw. When I heard that Terry Bradshaw interacted with Dale Senior the night before the Daytona 500, I was like, I never knew that. Just you learn a lot as you do research for this stuff.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, good job, Amir. Good job, Ryan,
Thank you.
on your insights and and like I said, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today on this episode.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for
Before
coming by, man.
Hey, no
yeah
problem, man. Appreciate y'all
yeah
for having me.
Hmm.
for sure. And before we let you go, is there any way people can find you on social media or anywhere?
So, my Instagram, I got two Instagrams because I run a small fly fishing business. Um, my business page is rise underscore flies CLT RYS underscore FLYSCLT. And then my regular page is Ryan_Geraghty22. They can link it in the description. It's a tough last name to spell, but
Yeah, and I'll
those are both my social media handles. I'm on all social media. So find me there. But again, thank y'all for having me. I really appreciate it. Y'all are doing a good job over here. Keep up the
Thank
good
you.
work.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ryan. And coming from a friend's perspective, talking about NASCAR with somebody, other than this guy to my right. But but yeah, thank you for giving your opinions about Earnhardt and Bradshaw, and we look forward to having you on again on a future episode if needed. And if you want to come back, feel free.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Always.
and provide an insight about Alex Rodriguez, and again, you being a Red Sox fan, Yankees fan, and NFL fan, for who else to bring along than you than you, man. And thank you for
Yeah,
coming
you
by.
would.
Hey, no problem. Go Celtics, baby.
All right, without further ado, this has been Doubleheader with Keenan Costain and Amir Daniels with special guest Ryan Geraghty, and we look forward to having you on next time. And with that being said, goodbye, folks.
Yep, y'all take care and catch you on the flip side.
Sir. Thanks, boys.